Arturo Cervantes Trejo, MD, General Director of Health Promotion, Mexican Ministry of Health. This special issue of the Pan American Journal of Public Health is extremely important given that it touches upon the most relevant public health topics that you have for the border areas, not only of Mexico, but of the whole region. And this topic is injuries, external cause of injury, both in its intentional nature, violence, suicide, domestic violence, sex work, sex trade, and the consequences thereof, and road traffic injuries, falls. These are the main causes of death among young children and young adults. They are having incredible burden for the public health system, for the hospital system. They are having incredible cost issues for society as a whole. And this special issue touches upon those topics with evidence regarding what works and regarding what's wrong. So it's an incredible contribution. This issue will certainly help policymakers understand what is lacking and what policies need to be strengthened. For example, in terms of children and in terms of mental health. This article, this journal has several articles dealing with the provision of services for victims of violence, for victims of abuse and neglect. And these are cases that can illustrate what's going on at a larger population level. What you learn here is that providers need more training. You need that service is not well organized and could be made more efficient. You learn about experiences that work, that are based on evidence done by the best research teams throughout the world. So it's incredibly valuable for policymakers and for people in public health. Human security is complex throughout the world, but especially in border areas. And here all sorts of challenges emerge for public health. No, you have migrant workers and a lot of movement of people. You have high-risk jobs, such as the sex trade, which is dealt with. You have a lot of issues that have to do with poverty and exploitation and low wages, etc. So urban issues that characterize a lot of border towns throughout the region. So human security is well represented at its extremes, I would say. And you have the most vulnerable population groups appearing in this scenario, which represents incredible challenges that, if dealt with effectively, you can share it with other places where it's not as complex. And thus, I think there's a lot to be learned. For decades now, external cause of injury has been, if you look at hotspots for the entire country, border cities such as Tijuana, Ciudad Juárez, Laredo have been on the high areas of the distribution of rates. They have been on the highest rates for insecurity, for public insecurity, for violence, specifically for homicides, but also for other types of violent and non-violent crime. So when you look at injuries specifically, looking at border areas is very important. For example, there is also in non-intentional injuries, road traffic injuries, which represent the first cause of death in Mexico from 5 to 20 years of age, and then the second cause of death from 20 to 34 is road traffic injuries, drinking and driving, not wearing seat belts. These factors in a border context are especially interesting, given that death rates in the north side of the border are very low, very low. People hardly ever die in as much in road traffic accidents. And in Mexico, that's a first cause of death for children and young adults. So there's contrasts that have to do with behavioral issues, with social and cultural issues that can certainly be changed. And so it's a very interesting issue.